It seems like every time I open my social media account lately, I see something about homesteading. So I mentioned this to you the other day, and you said I didn't know the definition of the word, but I think we're talking about maybe two different things.
Well, yeah, I think there's a common it's a newer thing to talk about homesteading as what you would call like farming or like micro farming kind of in a way, but also like living off the land, right? So this is kind of what I think they're calling homesteading. And from my experience, homesteading is when you protect your property from predators. Totally different thing, right? You're talking about one's homesteading, like living off the land and having goats and plants and living off the land completely, and the other is something different.
Yeah, I know what you're saying because we did have a client who needed to protect his asset and he did a homestead, like an official homestead on his property so that he could protect the asset against, anybody trying to take it from him. So
Right.
that is a whole different topic entirely.
And I think where that originates from is back when you came, like when you came, traveled across the country on a wagon, right? They would literally like take a post and drop it in the ground and say, "This is mine," and they'd homestead it. That's a homestead claim, right? And that's where that originates from. And today you can do something similar, but not obviously not the same, but you can file a homestead exemption. So in California, you can file in like LA County, it's $650,000 that you can protect your property from creditors.
Why
So,
doesn't everybody do this?
well, they should, but not everybody's in a situation where they need it. So they don't use it for that reason, right? And not everybody's even aware of it.
But you don't know you need it. You might not know you need it until you need it, and then it could be too late.
That's true. That's very true. But that's what homesteading is. So when you're talking about homesteading, and you were talking about like these people are talking about homesteading, and you even sent me a TikTok video or a
Yeah,
Instagram or
it was
something.
TikTok. I see it everywhere.
Right. So let's get into that because that seems to be a little bit more interesting than the other one.
Well, I think they're both interesting in their own way. One is a protection measure, but the other is more of a lifestyle. And
Right.
I do think that is a little bit more interesting because I've been
It has some more cool factors to it, right?
yeah.
So let's get rid of the first part. Homesteading is you have to file a homestead protection with the courts, and that's a legal thing. So look into doing that if you want to protect your assets from 650,000 in LA County. California it goes down a little bit more in other counties, but anyways, check for your county. All right, let's move on to the other section.
So homesteading, basically where people are growing their own food, maybe living off of their own energy sources, a well.
Solar.
Yeah, well, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, so you get the well, right? That gets you the water. Well, there's four utilities. So you got gas, electric, water, and the fourth one that I can't remember, cable.
Dork.
No, so there's gas, electric, and water. Those are the three that are going to be your main ones, right? That you have to replace. Or you can go all electric. And what the really cool thing right now that I'm seeing is that you can get solar panels and get batteries. So if you basically during the day, and if you're in an area where there is a lot of sun, you can run during the day, charge those batteries, and at night run off the batteries. Ideally, you don't need any electricity company to operate yourself and run, and you can run a full operation. You don't have to run like turn off things so that you save electricity. You can really run a sufficient power plant. Essentially, you have your own little power plant at home and run off the sun.
Yeah, so I mean, what we're basically talking about is living off the grid,
Right.
maybe to some degree. Because
Well,
most people still have to go to work unless you're lucky enough that you get to work from home.